Today's reading is from Rays of the One Light, weekly commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita by Swami Kriyananda. How democratic is truth? Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it and your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda. We live in an age when people assume that knowledge should be available equally to all. In matters susceptible of judgment by normal common sense, however, everyone knows there are exceptions. Access to a control room for intercontinental missiles is limited by universal consent to a very few. Access to the controls of a passenger airline is limited to those with necessary knowledge for operating them, and also to those with proper authorization. If people don't see the disadvantages of making more subtle knowledge universally available, it is only because they are ignorant of the risks involved. In the case of subtle knowledge, the main disadvantage in making it universally available is the harm it might do to one who isn't ready for it, and who might even mock it. True, by mocking truth, he might undermine the faith of a few truth seekers, but then such tests can also be beneficial as a means of strengthening faith. Again, true, the clever doubter's misrepresentation of those truths may dissuade a few seekers from following the spiritual path. But if a seeker really is sincere, he will recognize the truth eventually because it resonates with him in his own being. No, the greatest problem accrues to the shallow doubter himself. To give him an opportunity to affirm his ignorance might only estrange him even more from the truth, delaying the time when he will turn, as all people must, eventually to the light. Thus, the scriptures advise not secrecy, but discretion in sharing the truth. Jesus Christ says in the Gospel of St. Matthew, chapter 7, "Give not that which is holy unto dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet, and turn again and rend you." And Sri Krishna says in the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, "Never speak of these truths to one who is without self-control or devotion, who renders no service, who does not care to hear, or who speaks ill of me." Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om.
Good morning. We have a real need here to define this word, especially when we're in the throes of a presidential campaign. What is this truth that we're talking about? And there's an interesting thing that's happened within the last couple of decades. People talk about my truth. What are they talking about? What are they talking about? It's more my opinion, really, don't you think? And one of the things we early on learn is that our opinions are just opinions. They don't matter very much. What matters is the truth. So it's very interesting that this use of the word my truth is trying to get in there and saying, what I have to say is the way it is. And we're hearing that a lot on the airwaves. I thought I'd take a look in the dictionary to see how it's defined, and it's very startling to me. The word is defined as a fact or belief that is accepted as the truth. Unusual, isn't it? That means that it's all coming from mankind, And there's no appreciation of where it really is coming, which is from our Creator. So when we're talking about how democratic is truth, we're talking about those things that are the reality, the deep reality that surrounds us. We're not talking about what Donald Trump thinks is the truth. It's interesting, though, when we're faced with so many people speaking of how it would work really well if they were president of this nation, we realize that there's an enormous need in this country to bring into our system of choosing presidents people of high character. Don't you think we should be making the choice on the basis of moral integrity and high character? And you know, when you look at India and see the example of Mahatma Gandhi, isn't it thrilling that people love him because of his moral leadership, because of his high character, because he was God-centered? And that's really the true leader that we have great need of. But it will come because Master Yogananda said that in this age, everything will look chaotic as we're changing from Kali Yuga into Dwapara Yuga. And so we'll have what we have right here and now, with religions fighting each other and people speaking my truth and all of this, and it will get itself sorted out. I had such a lovely experience this spring. One of my friends at Ananda, Richard Salva, has been writing very interesting books, and he came out with a book which was a discussion of the incarnation of Lincoln as also the incarnation of Charles Lindbergh. And I had heard that Master had said that, Yogananda had said that, and I was very interested in that. But for some reason I couldn't get through that book, and I felt very bad because Richard was a friend of mine, and I wanted to, bring back some response to it. But this spring a book came out, and we have it in the boutique, and it's called The Yoga of Abraham Lincoln. And in that book, he specifically focuses on one of the great presidents of this country, one great moral leader, one who knew that he was listening for God's word on how he should carry out that civil war. And so this book shows what might be the influences of an incarnation as a Himalayan yogi, because this is also what Master said, that Lincoln was a Himalayan yogi. So Richard shows the influence of that lifetime, how that might have played out, and how that's reflected in his life as Lincoln. It's a very, very thrilling book. So when I finished it, I just could go back and read the first one with no trouble. It's just interesting to me. And now I can write him a little note and tell him how much I enjoyed both of those books. So Swami Kriyananda, who founded Ananda, as a direct disciple of Yogananda, wrote at one time about the effect of journalism on our country and our sense of the search for truth and understanding of the reasons for things. And he said what's happened is that the journalists have made truth a plaything. And that's the great gap which we're experiencing. And so it's an opportunity for distortion and an opportunity for exaggeration. And so that's not the truth. We are in a time, again, it's such a mix, such an incredible mix when the teachings of the East are coming to the West, and we're realizing that we want that deep spirituality. We want the answers to those questions. We want the truth, not about what someone thinks about how to run a country, but we want the truth of what in the world are we doing here? We want the truth about what is our purpose. We need to get grounded in an understanding of how we grow and how we proceed. So we want these deep truths. So the question before us is, how do people grow in understanding? Well, they grow gradually. They grow at their own pace. And this is an important thing to understand on the spiritual path as we gather together in a group like this morning, to realize we all have recognized that we need guidance on how to move forward, and we need to become self-aware to understand what is our next step. And somebody's next step may seem a baby step for you because you took that step maybe incarnations ago, but that doesn't matter. And that's why the truth, the vehicle for truth, is an open heart. It's not what we can acquire from the intellect. The intellect will just debate and as the dictionary said, figure out what everyone will agree to. But that's so lame. That's so really very lame. The heart is the one that knows the truth. And so we know that everyone is wanting their next step, and how lovely when they can take that next step. The truth is like this. Yogananda was once asked, which came first, the tree or the seed? Now, maybe scientists could take a look at things and see how trees grow and see what's going on there, but do you think they could answer that question? It's an important question in that it sort of opens our minds to the thought, gosh, there's a lot of mystery around here that I don't understand. It's wonderful to live with mystery. It's wonderful to live with unanswered questions as yet. And it's wonderful to live with the teachings of a true guru, because a true guru is an expression of truth. And Yogananda said, when they said, what came first? He said, the tree. That's very interesting. But if we think more deeply, we realize that makes a great deal of sense, because when we're thinking of doing something, when we're thinking of accomplishing something, the idea comes first, and then the manifestation of that idea. And then within that tree come the seeds. So it's an interesting one to think about, but how sweet that there was an answer available. And what that means is that should we recognize that the intellect, it's fun, it's a vehicle for understanding, it's not the ultimate. But there are questions it can't answer. And the open heart, the open awareness, the open consciousness tunes us in to the knowledge that is important for us to understand, which is how do we proceed? And along the way, we can be informed about the mysteries that surround us. Someone also asked Yogananda, is man important in the scheme of things? Now there's an interesting question. Is man important in the scheme of things? Are we just a little part of this huge cosmos? Or is there a part for us to play? And he said, man was made in the image of God to be in harmony with his Creator. And in that way, he is important. So reflecting on that, we realize that our true importance is our relationship to God. And all the other things are just playthings along the way. I've been very moved in the past month. I've had the privilege of sitting every Wednesday evening with the students who have been studying all year the various books of Yogananda and Kriyananda in preparation to take the Kriya initiation. Kriya is the highest initiation that Yogananda brought to the West. And these students have been studying with all of the different ministers. And then by July, there's 2 groups that start off. I don't know how Padma does this in her amazing way. She gets this all onto a grid, and she gets these students moving along the track. And in July, the 2 groups come, and we look at Yogananda's Conversations with Yogananda, a wonderful book. And it raises many, many questions that lead us to an understanding of truth. But what the privilege for me has been is to watch those who are new to this path take it on. It's one of the most lovely things. I don't know whether I can get it across in words. But it's the dichotomy of, certainly many of these students have been walking a spiritual path. Many of them have had a longing for understanding. And when you get to Yogananda's teachings, what you come across is how to put those deep truths into practice. And so the questions come up of, well, am I ready for this next step? Don't I have to be perfectly aligned before I can take Kriya? No. There's a path to take. There's a process to go through. There's Yogananda's wonderful techniques in order to clear your own consciousness to be open to the truth. But perfection doesn't come until way, way, way down the path. What comes first is that desire, that yearning, that development of devotion for God and Guru, that rendering of service to God and Guru, that responding to his call in your heart and saying, boy, I think I can take this on. I know I really want to. And that really want to is what moves us closer and closer to the truth of who we truly are. And so our awakened self goes through many stages. And as the Bhagavad Gita suggests, we can keep pace with ourselves as we open our hearts and develop love for God. It's something we can learn about. It's something we can practice. It's something we must feel deep within ourselves, because the truth will only come to each individual according to his own receptivity. As the reading was talking about, you could put the truth in front of someone and either they wouldn't see it, so what's the point? Or they would push it away and deter their own awakening in that process. So I know we all, when we get excited about this particular path, we want to share it with all our friends, and we've all done that, and they've gone, I don't know. And we have to absorb that, gee, I don't know, and say, but I do. This is for me. And we need to state that to our families and go on from there. And so we do. It's interesting, this society that we live in places a lot of emphasis on the access to information. But as I stated in the beginning, it's really not the access to truth. It's just access to information. But the truth is different, because when we're accessing the truth, it's not about theology and dogma. It's actually, when we're accessing the truth, it's not even about religion. Religion is just man-made expression of the search. But when we're accessing truth, this is within us. This is inside of us. This is what we do in our meditation practice. And so I want to end with a chant that we don't sing very much, but when I found it, I thought it fully expressed the reading, which says, "You must consider me the most relishable." So this is called Mother of Us All. All your children, Mother, call you. Knowing not it's you they call. Some through mists of their unknowing, bruised and hurting when they fall. Turn away, but who can leave you? You, the Mother of us all. If the child forgets its mother, will she coldly turn away? Wise or foolish, we're your children. Guide us, Mother, if we stray. Those whose hearts are torn with anguish lack the power your name to call. Heal their wounds, Ma. Soothe their sorrows. You're the Mother of us all.
I'd like to read from Whispers from Eternity. Come to me as Krishna, the divine cowherd. O Krishna, Lord of Hindustan, I sorrowed by the lonely Jamuna river, where thy flute notes thrilled the air and led lost calves to their divine home. O lotus of love, musing on the sad absence of thy delusion-dispelling eyes, I saw thine invisible spirit take form, frozen by my devotion's frost. Thy divine body of sky blue light walked with feet of eternity on the banks of my mind, planting there the lasting footprints of divine realization. I am one of those lost calves which followed thy flower footprints on the shoals of time. Listening to the melody of thy flute of wisdom, I now follow the middle path of calm activity by which thou hast led many through the portals of their dark past into the eternal light. Since all souls belong to thy fold, whether we move forward, are sidetracked, or are hemmed in, unmoving, in the fogs of disbelief, O divine Christna, lead us back to thy enfolding shed of everlasting freedom. O Krishna, thou reignest supreme on the heart throne of all those who know thy love.